Okay, well, welcome everybody to this session, Cargo Bike Adoptions for Businesses. Thank you very much for attending and for being here. My name is Ben Lormer. I work here at the European Cyclists Federation and also on the City Changer Cargo Bike EU project. We have a really interesting session ready for you today. And just to begin, we're going to have a short welcome note and address from Jill Warren, the CEO of the European Cyclists Federation. So without further ado, I'm just going to pass over to Jill and we'll then start our first session just after she's finished. Jill, the floor's yours.
Thank you very much, Ben. Hello and welcome to this webinar today on cargo bike adoption for business. We're delighted with the interest in this subject because it's very close to our hearts, as evidenced by the high number of registrations for today's event. So thank you for joining us today. For those of you who may not already be familiar with the European Cyclists Federation, please allow me to give a quick introduction. So the European Cyclists Federation, or ECF, promotes cycling as a sustainable and healthy means of transport and leisure. We're the umbrella organization for cycling advocacy associations throughout Europe, including, for example, Cycling UK, Cycling Scotland, and Sustrans in the UK, and over 60 other organizations. We have some very ambitious goals for this decade. We want more cycling, so we want to increase cycling levels by at least 50%. We want safer cycling. We want to reduce the rates of cyclists killed or seriously injured in road collisions by at least 50%. We want stronger political support for cycling, which we define as cycling to be prioritized by policymakers as a sustainable and healthy part of the mobility mix. We want higher investment. And in the EU sense, that means an additional 15 billion on top of all the national spending in the EU and beyond. And we want more and better infrastructure. And we hope that if our goals are met, then that will translate into an additional 100,000 kilometers of new cycling infrastructure to be built in Europe. The main activities at ECF include evidence-based advocacy at the European level, research and thought leadership projects to support this, EU-funded and other multi-stakeholder projects that support our advocacy work, such as the City Changer Cargo Bike project that you'll hear more about from my colleague in just a few minutes. We also provide tools, resources, and trainings for our members and networks. And these networks include, beyond our members, a Cities and Regions for Cyclists network. And I know we've got a couple of registrations from them here today. So hello and welcome. We have a Cycle-Friendly Employers network. We have a Scientists for Cycling network, a Women in Cycling network, and we're also a founding member of the World Cycling Alliance. You might also be familiar with the Eurovelo cycle route network, which spans 90,000 kilometers in 42 countries, which we centrally coordinate together with a network of national Eurovelo coordination centers throughout the continent. We also organize the annual VeloCity Conference, the premier international planning conference for cycling. And I'm sure we've got some Velo citizens in the audience today. So I invite you, if you haven't done so already, to register for the next VeloCity event taking place in Ljubljana from the 14th to the 17th of June this year. Cargo bikes are changing the landscape in our cities and towns before our very eyes. Families are using them to replace cars, to do the school run and their shopping. Businesses are using them for cycle logistics, in many cases replacing polluting, congesting motorized vehicles. And we know there's much more potential. For our part, ECF's work to make cycling safer and more accessible should help support this boom and help us all realize the full potential of the cargo bike. I confess a bit of self-interest in this as a relatively new cargo bike owner myself. In the background there, you'll see my bike. If anybody can help me think of a name for it, please put it in the chat. I'm still trying to name it. I can fit 3 big bags of groceries and a crate of beer in mine. I know many of our audience have a vested interest in this subject too. So without further ado, I will hand over to my colleague, Anna-Karina Reibold, who is our very capable projects and communications assistant on this project. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Jill. I will just share my screen. I hope you can see it. Thank you again. As Jill said, my name is Anna-Karina Reibold, and I work as a communications and projects assistant at the European Cyclists Federation. Today, I would like to talk about the City Change a Cargo Bike project and some of the measures that we're doing to promote the uptake of cargo bikes among businesses within the project. ECF is a partner of the project and also the work package leader for communications. The City Change a Cargo Bike project, CCCB in short, is all about promoting cargo bikes. City Change a Cargo Bike started back in 2018 and will run until July 2022. CCCB exploits the limitless potential of cargo bikes by promoting their usage amongst public, private, and commercial users. A Horizon 2020 project, CCCB brings together 20 partners, including research institutions, NGOs, industries, and cities such as Oslo, Cambridge, Strasbourg, and Gdynia. You can see all of us right here on this map, and as you can see, we're really based all over Europe. The aim of the project is to achieve a faster, more cost-effective, and larger scale deployment of cargo bikes. To achieve this, CCCB implements a variety of different measures. In the partner cities, raises awareness for workshops and webinars such as this one, and transfers knowledge to cities and stakeholders beyond the project. At CCCB, we believe that cargo bikes are part of the solutions to many of the world's most complex challenges related to urban mobility. Challenges such as air pollution and road safety problems that are only predicted to worsen as the volume of traffic caused by commercial deliveries, services, and private trips continues to increase. Cargo bikes have the potential to tackle the environmental, logistic, traffic, and social issues facing many European cities, all while providing a new perception of mobility, transport, and quality of life. Cargo bikes are one of the most effective tools to tackle carbon emissions, pollution, land use, and energy waste. In fact, a single cargo bike replacing a diesel transporter can save 5 tons of carbon emissions per year, making them an effective tool for achieving the EU goal of CO2-free city logistics by 2030. Cargo bikes also make for healthier and better functioning cities. Promoting cargo bikes is an active safety measure. They can reduce the number of cars on the street, therefore save and improve lives. As we have seen all across Europe, the number of traffic deaths decreases as the percentage of journeys completed by bike goes up. Moreover, the potential of cargo bikes is huge. The Forerunner project of the CCCB project has estimated that 32% of deliveries transporting goods could be shifted to cargo bikes. The same study also suggests that 50% of all service trips, including stuff like street cleaning, could be shifted to cargo bikes. I would now just like to talk about a few effective measures that we have taken in the scope of the CCCB project that also encourage cargo bike adoption for businesses. More and more national, regional, and local authorities are unlocking the potential of cargo bikes by introducing subsidy schemes. These schemes can be put in place at a fraction of the cost that governments are spending on tax cuts for company cars and subsidies for electric cars. Such subsidy schemes have been put in place in a few CCCB cities, specifically for businesses and entrepreneurs. Thanks to the CCCB city, the city of Mechelen was able to launch a subvention scheme in 2018 for business owners in Mechelen with a budget of more than 30,000 euros. Due to its success, they repeated a similar scheme in the 3 following years and were able to support 52 business owners. On the photo right here, you can see a local beekeeper in Mechelen who has benefited from the subsidy scheme. The subsidy scheme implemented for businesses and private individuals in the CCCB city of Gdynia marks a major breakthrough as it is the very first of its kind in Poland. The subsidy scheme covers up to 50% of the purchasing cost of a cargo bike. If you're interested in discovering more subsidy and tax incentive schemes, I would like to invite you to have a look at ECF's Money for Bike tool. In the framework of the CCCB project, we have created an overview of every single subsidy scheme available in Europe, and we found that there are almost 300 tax incentive and purchase premium schemes for cycling offered by national, regional, and local authorities across Europe. We have mapped these schemes in an online interactive tool that provides information about the size of the subsidy, the type of bicycle, and the eligible target groups. The tracker also shows subsidy schemes for businesses and associations. Regulatory measures favoring cyclogistics are important measures that can be undertaken by municipalities. Examples include access restrictions for lorries and vans, as this forces delivery companies to actively look for sustainable alternatives. Other measures include 30 km/h speed limits, as this has demonstrably encouraged more cycling around Europe. And other measures are also parking restrictions and low emission zones. Generally, local government should aim to normalize cycling, as this will encourage businesses and citizens to use cargo bikes. The CCCB city of Dubrovnik is a very good example here. Until a few years ago, cargo bikes were a very rare sight in the Croatian city. And this is now rapidly changing, driven by the City Changer Cargo Bike project and a city administration that is leading by example. In March 2021, the city of Dubrovnik signed a declaration with the aim to reduce the number of delivery vans in its city center, only allowing electric vehicles in the historic center. Since then, cargo bikes have been on the up, and now cargo bikes are used for communal activities, maintenance of public spaces, and administrative tasks in the pedestrian zone of Dubrovnik. For cyclogistic companies to be sustainable, the business needs to be undertaking a lot of deliveries. In large cities, there may be areas in which cannot be easily serviced from the cyclogistics operators depot, so municipalities can help by securing space for microhubs and parcel stations. Mechelen, for example, has 59 small B-post lockers placed in the public domain, and parcels can be delivered to and from these lockers. Those deliveries are undertaken by the Belgian Post and usually delivered with zero-emission vehicles such as cargo bikes. In November 2020, Prague's first cargo bike depot was set up with the help of the city and the CCCB project with different delivery companies in the city center of Prague. It's been very successful, and in the first 6 months of operation, couriers delivered more than 30,000 shipments and covered more than 13,000 kilometers by bike. To encourage more businesses to make the switch to cargo bikes, municipalities should look at their own internal operations and identify services which currently use a diesel van, and they should target these operations first and look at how they can switch them to cargo bikes. The CCCB city of Strasbourg serves as an excellent example of how the public sector can utilize cargo bikes effectively. Here, the city has added cargo bikes to their public vehicle fleet to be used for everyday tasks such as street cleaning or the public library, as you can see in the photo, and also by the road safety department. The city of Oslo currently has more than 70 cargo bikes in municipal use, including in kindergartens, nursing homes, parking management, and much more. A very interesting example here is the uptake of cargo bikes by the graveyards of Oslo, who is phasing out fossil fuel vehicles on their premises and replacing them with cargo bikes. As part of the CCCB project, Vitoria Estates switched several municipal tasks from diesel vehicles to cargo bikes, including transportation of organic waste, transporting sporting equipment around athletic complexes, and moving materials and equipment around their botanical gardens. Tryout schemes are also very effective. Many businesses and private individuals are not aware of all the possibilities that cargo bikes offer or have never even heard of cargo bikes. So a lot of CCCB cities are doing these tryout schemes, such as San Sebastian, Gdynia, Rimini, and Lisbon. And the city of Varna, for example, they hosted tryout sessions with 6 locally manufactured cargo bikes, where 20 of the biggest delivery and logistic companies of the city had a chance to try out these cargo bikes. Awareness raising campaigns are relatively easy and low-cost initiatives, but yet very effective measures to promote the use of cargo bikes to citizens. Rimini, for example, they celebrate the Cargo Bike Revolution event every year, where they showcase the different uses of cargo bikes, from logistics to private uses. Launched in 2019, the festival is now the official gathering point for cargo bikers and those interested. The event shows that cargo bikes are not only vehicles for passionate cyclists, but also a convenient means of transport and a possibility for entrepreneurs and businesses. In 2019, local bike shops sold several cargo bikes on the day of the event. The city of Dubrovnik has not only decided to adopt cargo bikes for its own employees, but to demonstrate their potential to residents, retailers, and local businesses. For a culture where cargo bikes are not commonly used, they have developed a series of online videos to explain what they are and why they're useful. I hope this has given you a very brief but good overview of the CCCB project and some of the measures that we have undertaken within the project to foster cargo bike culture all around Europe. Of course, there's so many more things that municipalities can do to foster a cargo bike culture. And to learn more about CCCB and some other initiatives, I invite you to have a look at the website. It's called cyclogistics.eu. And on the website, you will find several publications. Most of them are available for download in up to 13 different languages. So please just have a look and follow the project on Twitter at cyclogistics.eu. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email. You can see my email address right here. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Anna Karina. So that, once again, thanks everybody for attending. I've seen already quite a few questions coming up in the chat, so we'll do our best to get over to those. But before we get to the first Q&A session, we still have a couple more presenters in this session. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Susan Rook. She's Senior Project Officer at Cambridgeshire County Council and is actually part of the CCCB project as well. Has been working on initiatives over there in Cambridge. So Susan, could I ask you to share your screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Unfortunately, Susan's camera is not working so great, so we might not have any visuals, but we will definitely have a slideshow. Susan, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Can you see that?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I do apologize that my video is not working. I've tried everything, but I've given up. So thank you to Anna, and as everyone said, I'll be sort of following on from the City Changer Cargo Bike perspective. So my name's Susan Rook. I work in the cycling team at Cambridgeshire County Council. And I'm just here today to share some of our experiences with cargo bikes. Just to give you a bit of context, if you're not familiar with the city of Cambridge, it generally has a thriving cycling culture. We've got more people cycling every day than any other UK town or city. In our historic city centre, it's just the easiest way to get around. And then over the last few years, the number of cargo bikes has also been increasing. So these are predominantly families transporting kids to school and nurseries. And the family cargo cycling has really increased organically. It's just high visibility and word of mouth. They really are a common sight around the city. We also have Zedify in the city, who I know are speaking later on this afternoon, offering zero emission deliveries by cargo bike. And again, their bikes really have a presence in the city. But there's a sort of small gap in the cargo bike field, really, which is for business use. There are some already, but there's definitely an opportunity to try and grow that sector. So, as has been said, Cambridgeshire County Council is a partner city on the Horizon 2020 City Change Cargo Bike project. As Anna Karina said, it's a 3-year project aiming to increase the prevalence of cargo bikes in cities across Europe. As a forerunner city, Cambridge has got about 16 implementation plans to encourage cargo bike use in the city, from working with policymakers to engaging with the public. So some examples of our plans include embedding cargo bikes into council policy, for example, procurement contracts favouring suppliers who use cargo bikes rather than motorised transport. Considering cargo bikes in new transport infrastructure as the highway authority, for example, ensuring modal filters or other street features are wide enough for cargo bikes, or installing dedicated parking spaces for cargo bikes. Supporting shared cargo bike schemes, maybe perhaps in new developments. There's sometimes grants available from district councils or other organisations for green initiatives, but people might not have thought about cargo bikes or just be uncertain about them. So putting together case studies and information to help kind of seed that idea of, oh, we could have a cargo bike to share. We want to demonstrate best practice and the benefits of cargo bikes through leasing schemes, tryout days, local heroes. And then we're running workshops and webinars on sort of choosing and looking after your cargo bike. Some of this is ambitious and work in progress, but it's all possible with the right people and the right drivers. For example, aligning with an authority's climate change strategy or zero emission city objectives. It's all possible. So we were quite fortunate in that during the lifetime of the City Change Cargo Bike project, the Department for Transport announced some cargo bike funding of its own with the e-cargo bike grant fund. So we put together a joint bid with Cambridge City Council, and we were successful in winning grant funding for 30 electric cargo bikes for the city. And this was great because it enabled us to go beyond just communications and promotion and actually deliver some practical ideas for initiatives for cargo bikes. It wasn't easy getting the funding, as the grant funding was great, but it only paid for the bikes themselves. So we had to find match funding to pay for everything else. And we sourced ours from the Greater Cambridge Partnership, who are delivering Cambridge's city deal. So one of their main aims is reducing congestion in the city. So replacing cars and vans with cargo bikes just aligned with their objectives. So we also had to demonstrate demand for cargo bikes, which we did in 3 ways. Firstly, we got commitments from Cambridge University, Cambridge City Council and Zedify to actually use the bikes if we were successful in getting them. We carried out a survey of local businesses through the Cambridge BID, the Business Improvement District. And lastly, we took advantage of all the experience and research of the local cycling campaign group of known interest in cargo bikes from Cambridge residents. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about planning the initiatives, but there were a few points that I thought was worth mentioning. For any scheme, you need to consider more than just the bike itself. There's also maintenance and servicing, insurance, training, locks or secure parking, management costs, promotion. You need to kind of consider it all holistically up front. Partnership working, it's really helpful to have a bike shop on board, not just to supply the bikes, but to advise on models and know that they'll be able to maintain the bikes once you've got them in your city, in your town. We're very lucky in Cambridge, we've got multiple cargo bike retailers with a wealth of experience to draw on. And if you're from a local authority, you're going to have to comply with public sector procurement processes. Even if you're spending grant funding, you still have to go through those, comply with those processes. And this can be quite a lengthy process, so don't underestimate how long that stage takes. And finally, I've found often the right people to talk to about this aren't necessarily those working in transport roles. They're more likely to be working in climate change or carbon zero positions, so that you're meeting the same objectives for your area, but not focused on travel specifically. So with our grant funding, we chose 4 initiatives which we felt covered the 3 sort of main types of cargo bike user. We're setting up a shared bike scheme for families, pool bikes for local businesses and organisations, a try before you buy scheme for both families and businesses, and finally a first mile collection service to complement the existing last mile deliveries in the city. So as I said at the beginning, we saw an opportunity in Cambridge to try and focus on the businesses and organisations more than the family side. And businesses using a cargo bike as their primary mode of transport. So this might be transporting goods between sites or delivering to customers, or small businesses with compact equipment, maybe gardeners or plumbers or food and drink retail bikes. And the key is just to demonstrate that it is possible to run a thriving business from a cargo bike, take advantage of city centre traffic restrictions to motorised vehicles, just embrace the freedom a cargo bike can offer. It also enables business owners to advertise on the bikes en route and get off and talk to potential customers. So far we've given bikes to Cambridge University for their staff to transport materials between sites, to the Cambridge Museums for running events and promotions, to Cambridge BID, who are now using it every day to provide information to tourists around the city. And they can be mobile, they can be at the station one day or they can be in the city centre the next. And they're finding it really, really engaging with the public. And then to Zedify to establish their first mile collection service. With the exception of Zedify, we're trying to give the bikes to organisations or groups or charities rather than individual businesses. They were the exception because they enabled us to get the match funding from Greater Cambridge Partnership, reducing congestion in the city. So as a local authority, we also wanted to try and lead by example if possible. It's hard at the county council because geographically we cover the whole county and they're quite long distances. But the city council, who we're working in partnership with, took 4 cargo bikes for use by their Parks and Open Spaces team and their events team, because there are no restrictions to where these bikes can be ridden in the city. They offer easy access to the heart of our many green spaces, which the council maintain. And the staff were using small vans, but they could easily fit their equipment into these cargo bikes. Thanks to COVID, it's early days using them because they haven't, the staff have been working at home, not out and about too much. But we hope that if they use them successfully, then these bikes can be expanded to other departments at the council. And then at the county council, we've recently been discussing using the bikes with the mobile library service. So we just delivered them their first bike just yesterday, and they're really enthusiastic to go and get it fitted out with bookshelves and take it out to visit the public. The bike in the picture isn't one of ours, but it's an example of what they want to do. And mobile libraries offer a wide range of valuable service to hard to reach communities. It's fantastic to see them using cargo bikes to complement their existing van fleet and to deliver this vital service. So finally, for the Try Before You Buy leasing scheme, we're offering a range of 8 cargo bikes, 4 for families to borrow for 1 to 2 weeks, and then 4 for businesses to borrow for up to 2 months, which we feel should give businesses enough time to try out the bike properly, run their normal journeys, see if one would work for their business. There's a cargo bike out there to suit every need, and many can be adapted to suit a particular purpose, as you saw with that library bike. We particularly want to support new and small businesses in the city. We know that cargo bikes have a high upfront capital cost, and whilst they're more affordable than buying a car or a van, we hope this trial scheme will give people the confidence to know that a cargo bike is a good solution for their transport needs. So for businesses, we have 2 simple baboo bikes with a basic wooden box, 1 bike and 1 trike. And then we've got 2 larger urban arrow bikes, which are a bit more specialist. And for this, so people have the choice of which bike they want to borrow. They can try one and then do a second trial with another one. And for this initiative, we've actually completely outsourced the scheme to Outspoken Cycles, the supply, maintenance, booking system, promotion, just the day-to-day management, and it's working really well. So that was all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. I'm going to end by showing you a short video, or asking Anna Karina or Ben to put the short video. We've made this to showcase cargo bikes in Cambridge. We only finished making it this week, but I think it captures just everything we're trying to say this afternoon. So I hope you enjoy it.
Cargo bikes for businesses are a frequent sight in Cambridge. Businesses use them instead of cars or vans to beat the congestion, and so that they can park or carry out deliveries more easily. They also demonstrate a commitment to sustainability.
Cargo bikes are cycles that have been specially designed to carry loads, sometimes as much as a small van. They can have 2 wheels, 3 wheels, or even 4 wheels. They can come with or without electric assistance to make them easier to pedal. There is a wide range of designs, and they're used to transport a variety of goods. Businesses in Cambridge use them to deliver food, wine, flowers, laundry and parcels, among other goods. There are also local tradespeople that use them to go about their work, and there are kiosk bikes for selling refreshments.
Hi, I'm James from Thorn Wines. We do online retail and wine wholesale throughout Cambridgeshire and East Anglia. We work a lot with restaurants in Cambridge, which means we need to get in and out of town nice and quickly and easily. We use a cargo bike to do that. It makes our life extremely easy when it comes to peak times, especially when we're travelling through the city trying to beat the traffic. We can park right outside the venues that we deliver to with the cargo bike. We don't need to worry about finding parking, putting ourselves on double yellow line.
We've used our cargo bike a lot over the past few years.
And it makes our life really easy.
Hi, I'm Mike from Mike's Bread, and I deliver my bread by cargo bike. I can go down all of the bike routes, which is really, really good. I can go through some of the modal filters that they put in the street, so I get this really direct route to all my deliveries. The other thing is it's more accessible for people on the street. I've had lots of customers find me just because I'm on the street on a bicycle, rather than being in a car and being sort of anonymous. For me, it was a good business decision to make the bike as the choice of delivery option.
Hi, I'm Steve. I run a business called Bespoke Cambridge. I build custom-made furniture in houses. I mean, Cambridge is the perfect place for cargo bikes because it has a good cycle infrastructure. There's good cycle routes. It's very flat, obviously, so it's quite easy to cycle around, and it's already got a big cycling culture. After working like this for 7 years, I couldn't imagine doing it any other way.
Hi, I'm Camilla from the Cambridge Cheese Company. We take climate responsibility very seriously here. Lots of the dairies that we work with are already climate neutral, and lots of them are even striving to be carbon negative. So it's really important for us that we carry on that journey of climate responsibility, and Zedify allow us to do that. Zedify collect from us every single day, come in, say hello extremely enthusiastically, and then take the parcel straight to the customer on a bike within a matter of minutes in lots of cases. Since using Zedify, we have never looked back. They're a fantastic company, incredibly reliable, and it gives us real peace of mind that we know that we're protecting the environment by using them.
Hello, my name is Neil Shaler. I am a county councillor. I'm the non-motorised user champion. It is so good to see the growth of cargo bikes in the city and across the county. The Cambridgeshire County Council is right behind this change. Businesses stand to benefit in that they have a lower running cost. They can get to places that cars and vans cannot. They represent a space for advertising. They tend to draw people's attention, and also the kind of personnel recruitment problems that businesses have can be alleviated because you don't need a special license to drive one of these. Yeah, we would like to see these machines taking the key roles for transport in our city.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Susan. It was really interesting. I think I want to echo some of the comments I saw in the chat that it's really great to see all the variety of cargo bikes kicking around. We're going to move on to our final speaker of this session. It's Jack from Team London Bridge. Jack is the place shaping director at Team London Bridge. So Jack, you're there? Brilliant. I'm just going to hand over to you now. We'd love to hear a bit more about what you're doing over in London, and the floor is yours.
Okay, tell me if that's not working, but I'll go ahead. Fantastic to be here, and amazing to see so many people online and from all over the place. So really excited to speak about cargo bikes. This is me. I work for Team London Bridge. I'll say a little bit about that afterwards. And I work I lead on place shaping in London Bridge. And in this image, you can see the kind of object behind, which shows some of our kind of wayfinding work, kind of bringing creativity, engaging, distinctive projects into the public realm, making it an enjoyable and welcoming place in London. But place shaping is also about the streets and the traffic and the operations, and how to find a balance between a good operating environment for the businesses there and a great place to welcome local people. So so I'm going to tell you how I feel like we found a bit of a sweet spot with the Bikes for Business program, which is promoting the use of cargo bikes for businesses. Hopefully I'll demonstrate in this program how Bikes for Business is good for making a great place, is good for the environment, and also very good for business. And I think that video before really demonstrated that very well. I'm slightly struggling to move my screen forward. Okay, so I work for a business improvement district. So if you don't know what one of those is, it's a number of businesses within a specific boundary. So you can see our boundary on this page, and those businesses pay a small levy or a tax, which we pull together to deliver a number of services that benefit the business community. So that tends to be around security, cleaning, greening, marketing, and my work, place shaping. We are fortunate to have a very kind of progressive board who've developed a vision to make London Bridge one of the most sustainable, culturally innovative and compelling places for business and tourism in the world. So London Bridge has a number of iconic buildings, as you can see and probably recognise in that image. It's part of the central business district in London, but is also very quickly changes as you go outside of the area, much more residential, much more deprivation. So we have a number of really kind of big, heavily trafficked roads in the area, and also lots of kind of historic medieval streets where cargo bikes are, can fit very well. And we're part of the London Borough of Southwark, and we're working also with the borough on this. In 2018, we kind of launched into this piece of work, and it came about from two other pieces of work. So one was doing delivery and servicing plans for some of our major businesses, for example, in the Shard, Guy's Hospital. And in that we were looking at reducing deliveries, retiming deliveries, and remoding deliveries. And we were actually having some success around retiming and reducing, but we need to kind of explore how to remode more. We also launched our cycling strategy for London Bridge, which you can see on the table there. And by speaking to a lot of the businesses in the area, speaking to the staff in those businesses, there was obviously a lot of interest in commuting and cycle parking, cycle security, those kind of things, but also cycling. There's a real interest in cycling logistics, so we had some good data around that. And we were able to say within that, as part of our vision, that cycling will play a major part in the ongoing transformation of London Bridge as a globally significant place of commerce, enterprise and creativity. So really putting cycling at the centre of what we were going to do. At that time, I'd only really seen a couple of cargo bikes, other than transporting people, but the cargo bikes transporting goods in the area. So with our kind of new strategy, we put together a project plan and managed to get some funding from Transport for London to deliver a project that we called Bikes for Business. So this really launched in 2018, but really got going in 2019. So initially we brought in some expertise, we tendered that out, and we started working with MP Smarter Travel, and Ollie is part of this session. One of the initial tasks was to really research the market. So who are the operators working in London that could deliver goods or services by cargo bike in the London Bridge area? And that was really quite an interesting piece of work, because actually it was much greater than I thought. It wasn't just couriers, it was also delivering donuts, champagne or fish. So that was quite interesting. We started to pull together a directory which has grown and grown, is very important to what we do now. Part of our project was to have a subsidy to try and reduce the risk to our businesses of taking a leap of faith, and working out how much subsidy would go to each type of switch from motorized vehicles. So whether it's just a one-off delivery, a weekly courier service, or buying a bike and being in the area every day. We then launched the project, and I'll show you a nice image of that afterwards, and then engaged businesses over the following year, which continued right up to the kind of first lockdown in March 2020. We also developed a code of conduct. This was actually really important for us. And when we did our strategy, a lot of people are very positive about cycling, but a lot of people, as I'm sure people know, are quite negative about cycling. And in my role, pedestrians are key. We have tens of thousands of people walking in our streets every day. So we really had to consider how the promotion of cycling and kind of professional services around cycling would work well with the huge numbers of pedestrians we have in the area. So making sure we're promoting services that respect the rules of the road, are accountable, etc., was actually quite important. And that's a piece of work that I won't really talk about anymore, but that has actually been taken on by Transport for London and kind of shared with many providers, and many of the operators that we've worked with have signed up to that. And then some monitoring. This was the initial, we developed an expo, so this really launched our project. For our businesses, we went into this university, King's College London courtyard, and invited a number of the services that we just to kind of put into our directory along. We didn't really know who'd show up, but a number of them did. And it really was a fun day. And many of our businesses came in, kind of met these people for the first time, saw cargo bikes really for the first time. And they were able to do demonstrations to show what a cargo bike looked like. But I think actually the most rewarding aspect of that day was all these different businesses meeting each other. And so a lot of them are in competition with each other. Some of them don't know each other because they work in different sectors, different services. But what we were doing, was having a common cause in promoting the use of this new kind of sector at the expense of the motor vehicle, and everybody was very passionate about that, and that's a kind of a bonding experience. Another aspect was to get really good photography from that day, which we've used really quite heavily, and I noticed some of the photos used from that day in the promotion of this event, which was great to see. So when we actually went out to speak to many of the businesses, and remember we have some quite big businesses in our area, global headquarters, as well as smaller offices, restaurants, etc. People really had the people that we were speaking to in those businesses would often have real blank expressions about what is a cargo bike, and A, what is a cargo bike, and B, why are we promoting it? Because they thought it was more about a pizza delivery than the kind of work that they were engaged with. So we really had to kind of show them information about what a cargo bike is, their capacity, and really how they were able to replace a van, which is something that they understood very, very well. So just jumping forward a little bit, so that initial project lasted just until kind of March 2020. and then there was lockdowns, etc. But we made the case for a larger project and got new funding. So that was working with Impact on Urban Health, which is a charitable foundation linked to Guy's and St Thomas Hospital, which is in our area. We continue to work with MP Smarter Travel and expand our project to an area that we call the Low Line, which, if you can see in that area, you can see the railway line going east to west and going north to south. So the Low Line is the viaduct and all the kind of businesses and business destinations around that viaduct. With that, we have a number of partners. It's quite a strong partnership. So it seemed like a good framework to expand the project beyond our own kind of London Bridge area, which was quite a jump for us. The funders were also, who work specifically in two boroughs in London, Southwark and Lambeth, were also very keen to know how the potential to scale this type of work up to the whole much wider area. So we've commissioned Just Economics to do an evaluation of the project. And we estimate that there are about 2,500 businesses in that area that we're going to be focusing on. So I'm afraid I'm going to show you another film, but it's quite different to the other one, and it's only very short. So this was from the launch of the second phase of the project, and hopefully you'll get to see a little bit of the Low Line project itself. I think Jill in the intro said how cargo bikes are changing the landscape before our eyes, and I really hope this film helps demonstrate that, and kind of showing the camaraderie that we kind of getting by working with so many different partners.
Hi, Jack. I'm not sure there's sound on this. Do you want to just quickly check? I think it's quite an important one for this video.
Thank you for that. Let me try again.
Yeah, I know there's a box you have to tick to enable the sound, but I don't know exactly where that is.
Is it working?
That's great.
So hopefully, that kind of shows how, things that are as dull as traffic and logistics can really kind of change how places can work, through cargo bikes. So what have we done over the last 2 or 3 years? Well, a few examples that I'd like to give you. So the first one is we worked with Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital. So they're obviously a very big organisation in our area, very important, and they kind of have various venues around London, one near Waterloo, one in our area, and this is a still from a BBC video that was made on the back of this piece of work, where their pathology services were always delivered on van or bike or motorbike, and we worked with them to switch that to cargo bikes. So now cargo bikes run back and forth delivering blood samples across South London. So that was a really fantastic kind of launch, and I think gave a lot of businesses confidence that if blood could be transported between hospitals, then so could documents. And now on the right of that image, the hospital is now looking at other services. So they're buying these bikes for district nurses who often go back and forth in vehicles, and they have over 200 district nurses across South London. So you can see the kind of scope for a shift to bikes there. The images at the bottom, so that is the bottom of the Shard, and so bottom left was it was a bit of fun really, but we did a Christmas kind of a charitable Christmas collection, giving Christmas. They look like bins, but they're not. They're Christmas presents that were delivered to local charities, and previously that had been done on vans and taxis, and we did that on cargo bike, and I suppose really engaged quite serious operational team in the Shard in the kind of in the cargo bike, and really changed how they perceived the opportunity there. And on the bottom right, that is the loading bay to the Shard. You can imagine an enormous number of vehicles coming in and out of that, which it can be quite problematic. And there's all kinds of issues around getting your slot. If you miss your 15-minute slot, then you have to book another slot, which means you have to drive around central London until you kind of get your slot back and get back in time. And there's often kind of queuing outside that loading bay. So you can see there on the right, a cargo bike. They just have little space just by the loading bay where they can come in, park up, walk in, deliver, come out and leave. Much more efficient. And when we engage a lot of the businesses, I think, often we go to the operations manager or business kind of facilities management, and maybe they're not so keen, but also we work, if you also go through the marketing team or the sustainability team, then actually you can find people who are much more open to that and, find other ways into that organization to make that shift. But it can be very slow, and lots of businesses have long-term contracts, built long-term trust with different operators. So it is quite slow. It's not an immediate kind of switch. Left, a local butcher in Bermondsey. He bought his bike and we helped him, and he delivers to a number of the restaurants in the area. Very positive about cargo bikes, and just the reduction in stress that he felt from doing it in a van, and not only does he not get parking tickets, but he can just park up right outside the restaurant where he's delivering to, have a chat with the people there, doesn't create any noise or pollution, so everybody's happy. Clients look and say hello. So it's all very friendly business environment for which is another real positive about cargo bikes. Something that initially was very successful was kind of office fruit and milk deliveries, and that has with lockdown and COVID actually reduced to virtually zero. So that is something that maybe will start up again in the future, we hope. Bottom left, one of my favorite photos, a local dog walker was walking a number of dogs to the park, picking them up in cars one by one, which meant driving around the area 2 or 3 times a day. Now she does that on the cargo bike, and I believe now she has a second cargo bike, so that business is expanding. Bottom right is a recent event we ran for hotels. So we had the Hilton, the Shangri-La, a number of hotels in the area, and there was a real kind of a number of services that were on offer there, whether electricians, and I think you're hearing from Aaron today, coffee makers and laundry, and there really was, I think that's what's quite incredible, is the variety of services available. We're seeing now increasingly some of the kind of big global firms starting to use cargo bikes in central London, and so it's becoming much more mainstream. So that's interesting to see, but really requires pushing and promoting and giving positive support, and that's kind of the kind of advocacy role that I think we're quite good at, and you know, support the kind of general progress that's being made in London. So it's not just about cargo bikes, but I think what cargo bikes does, it works very well with the kind of changes in urban policy and infrastructure. So you can see a new cycle route there on the bottom right. And one thing, you know, there's a lot of controversy about this in London and other places, where you have busy streets with taxis waiting in traffic and then empty cycle lanes, and it becomes very annoying for people in traffic when they think there are no cyclists using in these lanes. And so we really want to push the kind of use of cargo bikes to you know, use that infrastructure, use the investment that's going into that infrastructure, and that's been, you know, really successful in our area, because there are areas that traffic can't go, or the motor traffic can't go, and the cargo bikes can, and that's happening increasingly through low traffic neighbourhoods. We also have the ultra low emission zone in London now, so you know, cargo bikes really do benefit, and you know, as that's been coming in, we've been able to push cargo bikes to our businesses increasingly by saying, well, it's not going to affect your business operations if you switch to cargo bikes. And now Transport for London is looking at creating a policy framework for London, and you know, I really hope with projects like ours that they can really be ambitious with that and really kind of push the whole cargo bike agenda, because I think, you know, as I'll say later, you know, I think there are aspects that still need to change to make cargo bikes absolutely kind of beneficial. So some success. So in our initial pilot phase, which was 2019 to 2020, our aim was just to visibly increase the number of cycle deliveries in the area and the reputation for London Bridge as a clean, quiet and efficient place for modern commerce. I think we achieved most of that. 52 businesses made a switch of some kind, even if it was just a one-off trial. 330 weekly deliveries by cargo bike. In 2 of the roads that we monitored over one day, over 24 hours, in one main road, there was a 131% increase. And that was from 26 to 60 cargo bikes. And that was also met with a reduction in motorised deliveries or vans. And then in a smaller street, a much bigger increase over that year, which is quite significant, I think, you know, and showed the kind of the change, quite rapid change. It was a more recent bit of data that we studied, and we did another count, which was linked to a low traffic neighbourhood and the kind of change that was happening around that. We wanted to see if it was working to support cycling. So the graph on the left shows how over 2 counts, over 2.5 years, the kind of green line going up is the number of cargo bikes that went through quite an important junction right in the middle of our area, which was virtually at 0 and is now almost 600 in one day. And the number of vans has gone down significantly. So, you know, hopefully that line will continue, and actually they will cross soon and we'll have more cargo bikes than vans. On the right, it shows just the total number of vehicles versus number of motor vehicles versus cyclists. And that's based on 4 counts that we've done over the last 3 years. And you can see we're almost at half in terms of cyclists to motor vehicles. So it really does show that London is changing. So this is the second phase of the project. So a kind of quite ambitious, broader aim, the clean, quiet and effective use of cargo bikes for business freight along and around the important low-line corridor will create a healthier, low-carbon future for neighbouring communities and the local economy. And we really think that it will make that kind of level of change that we will try and monitor. And then this idea of mainstreaming cargo bike use in the low-line areas, so that it actually becomes the norm. And so when people think about moving goods around, they think first about cargo bikes. That's really our aim, and again, advocating for that. So far 37 businesses have made a switch, and 50 more we think are very close to making a switch. We've engaged 600 businesses, so still quite a few to go in the area. I must say that lockdown has been quite a difficult environment to do that, but we think that will start picking up quite soon. It's been brilliant how we've managed to work with different partners in the areas. So that's business improvement districts, but also local business forums and regeneration managers, etc. And we'll be evaluating the change in traffic and the impact on the businesses that have made a switch through the evaluation that I mentioned. And just a slide from the evaluation team. So looking at what are the problems faced in urban areas, so congestion, air pollution and climate emissions, and how is Bikes for Business helping transform those? So looking at really understand and drilling down into the motivations of businesses to make a switch, what have been the benefits. And so far, it's quite early days in terms of that evaluation, but we're seeing that there's quite a difference between those businesses that purchase their own bike and the kind of commitment that they have to that, the benefit that they see, the economic benefit, the well-being benefit that they get from that, and the kind of brand recognition that they get from that, versus the businesses that use couriers or kind of courier services or other services, and they seem to be slightly less committed to it, so they may switch and then switch back. They also see that there's a difference in cost, so cost is a barrier still, and that's quite important. And so, I mean, the subsidy can help with that, but it's not necessarily going to change over the long term or be transformative, across London towards cargo bikes. I think we'll need more help towards that, changes in policies, etc. So that's all. Hopefully I have convinced you that this is what London Bridge looks like, that there are cargo bikes everywhere. And I look forward to hearing more examples from across Europe today. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Jack. If you just want to stay online very quickly, we're going to have a couple of questions before we move on to the next session. There were some good ones in the chat. We're going to have to keep it limited, though, just because of time constraints. But I think the first one, the first one actually would have been directed probably at my colleague Anna Karina, but I can answer it. It was from somebody from southern Italy looking for resources on how to start a cycle logistics hub. I really recommend the best thing to do is to check out the cyclelogistics.eu website. There are some resources for contacts there. There are some non-profit organizations such as the European Cyclists Federation as well that you can get involved with. And if there are any questions, you can obviously send an email. There was a good question for Cambridge. I believe it related to insurance. We're just going to find it here. Yes. So Susan, I hope you can hear me. The question was primarily about insurance arrangements. So the question goes, what are the insurance arrangements for the Cambridge scheme? It seems like some insurers are still concerned about how to deal with, in inverted commas, cargo bikes, especially as pool bikes, i.e. shared cargo bikes. So are you able to speak to the insurance side of the cargo bikes tryout scheme at all?
Yeah, not probably not what you want to hear, really. Yeah, we've struggled with it, to be honest. We did manage to get a quote from a private company that actually Outspoken and Zedify both recommended to us. But then they got cold feet. We kind of went into the detail of what we were doing and they got cold feet about insuring it. In the end, the ones that we've kind of given to businesses, we've had to say, you insure it yourselves. The ones that we're retaining, we've put it onto the council insurance, which we're paying for, but it's just an add-on to the like the normal pool bikes and the business fleet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've struggled with it, to be honest.
It's one of these areas, I think, where there needs to be some catch-up in terms of the offering. I know there's some players now in the cycling insurance area, especially in the UK, such as Lacquer, who may be getting on board with that. So if anyone's listening, please suggest that to them. Jack, I think there's a good question for London, just because of the amount of bicycle theft. I know that can be a problem for people with their own bikes in London. Someone's asked, what security is there for cargo bikes to deter theft? Is that a problem that you've ever come across within the Team London Bridge area, or is that not such a problem for cargo bikes themselves?
Well, because we always work with third parties, I suppose it's them that have to kind of secure their own bikes and find their own, cycle parking. I haven't heard of any security issues when riding into London and kind of delivering something, getting out and coming back on your bike and going off again. So it hasn't really come up as an issue for us.
Well, that's relieving to hear. There's another good question that maybe you could probably answer, but maybe also Susan, but it's a bit of a broad one. It's what made cargo bikes vanish from our streets when it was quite the norm 100 years ago, especially in major cities. I think if London Bridge has all those medieval streets that you're using with cargo bikes, what do you think it is? Is it just the fact that cars became so normal?
Yeah, I think, this idea of progress and, and so the bike became outmoded and, old hat. And so that's why we really kind of put cycling at the heart of our vision for a modern kind of place of, global place of commerce, because actually, we think that is progress now. That's the kind of progress that we need. And I think people are starting to recognize that much more.
Brilliant. And Susan, just one last question before we go to the next session. What do you think it is about Cambridge specifically that has resulted in cargo bikes being quite commonplace? Because I know that's not the norm for many cities around Europe. What is it about Cambridge specifically, do you think?
We've got a cycling culture and we've had it for a long time. It's a historic city. We've got quite narrow streets. It's hard to drive around the city anyway. So everybody cycles. You move to Cambridge, you buy a bike. It's just, it is in the culture, and therefore, I guess you grow up, you have kids, and you need to get them around. And the natural progression for that is, oh, we'll take the kids in a cargo bike. And it does help. As soon as it does grow organically, you see one, and then you see two, and then you see four, and that visibility really does help. If you can see examples, you can think, I could do that too. So yeah, it helps that that everybody cycles. Definitely. It really does help.
And it probably, with the cycling culture, probably comes a better emphasis on safer infrastructure and making it more of a reality, I guess.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. It is a spiral of, you get funding, so you build infrastructure, so people use it, so you get more funding. And yeah, if you can get into that spiral, it's a good one to get into.
Many ways up, yeah. Brilliant. So thank you both so much for everyone who's spoken so far. We're going to move quickly on to our next session. We're a little bit behind, but that's absolutely fine. I hope everyone's able to stay with us.